Hello and welcome to the Shea Hates Everything Podcast, where we talk about video games, movies, comics, and other shit that matters. My name is Shea, and today I hate the PlayStation Store and the fact that it's always fucking broken in some new and incredibly annoying way.
My name's Kyle, and today I hate USB sticks that you need to pull out of the port slightly in order for them to read.
Do you use USB sticks a lot for things?
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, I shouldn't say a lot, but
right.
Maybe more often than other people do.
Okay.
But yeah,
you transfer files a lot from computers?
Yeah. So, like, the most recent example is when I was having issue installing the Oculus software. I had installed it on my girlfriend's laptop, and I wanted to try and transfer the files over to mine, and it totally didn't work because you have to edit all these directories and crazy stuff that I didn't know how to do. But yeah, I mean, I do weird stuff like that all the time, and I sometimes back things up on it too.
That makes sense. I feel like I would use it more, but like I rarely do anything not on my home PC. So like obviously I have my personal laptop, which I never use because it's a piece of junk and it's super old and barely works. And then I have my work laptop, which I will occasionally like write a blog post on, stuff like that, but nothing where I need to transfer files.
Yeah.
Like we have 3 USB sticks that sit here on our PC, and I only ever use them like when we are recording these, because I'll use them like you would like a fidget spinner, like as just like a little tick thing to play with in my hands to keep me focused, because I am finding that that kind of thing really does help me. So I mean, I'm holding one right now in my hand, and it has like a little thing that it flips around to cover the actual USB like port part of it.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of like, I literally spin it like you would a fidget spinner. So maybe I would like a fidget spinner, and now I hate myself for having that realization.
Don't get a fidget spinner specifically, because those are companies that are capitalizing on the trend. You can get like an actual like a fidget cube that is meant for
I have one of those.
Oh, you
yeah,
do?
We got those. We had like for work, we had a big marketing team meeting a month or so ago, and they bought us all like a little fidget cube since it was at a big meeting thing, and I use that at work all the time when I'm like on a conference call and that kind of thing, because it has buttons and switches and knobs, and like there's one part of it that's very much like a joystick on a controller, and that's probably my favorite part. It makes me feel like I'm playing a video game, and then it makes me a little bit sad because I would rather be at home playing a video game than be at work on a conference call.
Yeah. So going back to
the corporate life,
right? Going back to PlayStation Store and the fact that it's always broken. What's been like your most recent problem? Because I haven't had any problems with it lately.
To be honest with you, I'm a little afraid that it's more my actual PS4 than it is the PlayStation Network, which like I almost don't even want to talk about it, because like talking about it makes it real. But it just like I don't have any problems with my account, but sometimes like when I'm coming out of a game, I can't load Netflix. Like it does the little drop down menu where it shows you all your TV and video apps, and like none of them will show up. So I have to restart my system, that kind of thing. And then just the other day, because PlayStation Network's having a flash sale right now, and most of it's garbage per usual, but they had the Rise of the Tomb Raider like special edition that comes with all the DLC,
right?
Which is you still buy $60, and I actually looked online and Amazon, it still sells for like $50 or $60, but it was on sale for like $25, and I was like, yeah, I'll buy that. I know I want to play it, so might as well if it's that much on sale. And then I tried like 3 different times, and I would click into like the game page, and just nothing would load. It would just sit at like the spinning little icons forever, and then like error message, and so I would go back in, try to do it again, same thing, and I was like, you know what, fuck you then, Sony, like you're not getting my $25. I'm just not buying this game.
That sounds more like a problem with your network.
But I mean, I have no issues with my internet ever.
Well, like, you know how Sony does like the weird NAT types for voice chat and stuff? I wonder if there's something weird with their store.
I doubt it. Like, because I definitely have had that problem before with multiplayer games, because it's always like set to strict NAT type or whatever, and I'm not smart enough to figure out how to change it and do whatever I need to do. But like for years and years, all the way back through PS3 days, like the PlayStation Store, the PlayStation Network, actually on the OS has always been a janky piece of shit.
Yeah.
And I remember when the PS4 launched, I was like, how do you possibly fuck this up so bad again? Because the PS3 network was so terrible, and the PlayStation Store was so terrible on PS3. It took forever for things to load. Obviously, the download times were insanely slow, and just like it wouldn't load screens, it took forever.
Yeah,
the
people kind of
UI
forgave
of it was really
it that
poor
because because it was free online. Whereas like
Yes.
on Xbox 360, you had to pay the gold subscription.
Right.
But now like you are paying PS Plus, and so the fact that stuff still doesn't work for some people is really shitty.
Yeah, and I'm not even worried about like the actual connectivity, like online multiplayer side, which is a
Right.
whole other thing. Because like I never use that, so why am I paying $60 for it? But the actual like it's mostly the store. I mean, I have problems on the OS and things like that, and I'm assuming it's the OS. I don't really know. Where like my actual homepage, things aren't loading and it has problems, blah blah blah. But it's mostly the store. Like anytime I try to use the store, it just takes forever to load. And like pages break. I can't buy things. Like I tried to buy a game. This was a couple weeks ago. And I tried to buy a game. It went through the whole process with my credit card. And then I got an error message. And it just like totally, the PlayStation Store just totally crashed. And I couldn't download it. And I'm like, okay, so now what? Now I got to call my fucking credit card company, see if this charge went through. Because I don't want to go buy it again just in case. Because then I have to deal with customer support. And it's just like why do I have to deal with that? Like we live in the age of the internet. Fucking everything is on the internet. No one buys anything in a fucking store anymore. If you're gonna have an online store like that, which is super convenient, make it convenient. Like make it have basic functionality to make it work. It's just really frustrating because I want to give them my money. Like all I'm trying to do, Sony, is give you my money, and you're not letting me give you money. Like, come on, fix your shit. So yes. So welcome to the Shea Hates Everything Podcast, everybody. I feel like that's a strong hate start to the episode.
We're setting the tone early, strong.
Yeah. But the last couple episodes we've been going through, taking a look back at like all the E3 press conferences, talking about those games. And so now we'll get more into kind of a regular flow of the episode. So this episode may be a little bit shorter than you've been used to the past couple ones. But today, there are a couple little pieces of news, but primarily the big news things that we were going to talk about are centered around San Diego Comic-Con, which is, at the time of this recording, is currently ongoing. And before we get into that, I just kind of wanted to talk about, which is, I feel like, part of what's happening at San Diego Comic-Con this year. It just feels like there is so much cool shit out there now compared to how it was even a couple years ago. Like, there are so many awesome nerd-related or nerd-tangential movies that I'm interested in, so many new shows that I want to watch, so many video games coming out. I feel like the big narrative has been like 2017 is such a strong year for video games, which I totally agree, but I look at the games that I've played this year and the games that are already out that I want to play, and I feel like there aren't that many. Like, I looked at my list, I've played 8 games this year. That's like a game a month, and a lot of those games, things like Mass Effect Andromeda, I put 25 hours in, but I certainly didn't fucking finish the game, and so I wouldn't qualify that as like, I quote-unquote played this game, I didn't finish it. And so it's just weird to me to have all of these amazing games that are out this year that I'm just not interested in. I'm just not, I don't like the genre, or
Right.
I'm not interested in like the style of game. Have you experienced that all, or has it been like, have you been overwhelmed with the amount of great games to play?
So, no, I've not been overwhelmed with great games to play, but I feel like I've had a steady trickle of things, and then I've also had enough time in between to touch on things from the last couple of years that I never got to play. Like, I have Quantum Break installed because I got that on the Steam sale, and I know the thing, people didn't really like that game, right? But I just want to, because it's a really interesting concept, right? Blending a TV show and a game at the same time. Yeah, and I don't know that they executed on them particularly well, but I kind of want to find that out for myself. So I have that to play. I haven't played that yet. And like, I've gotten into some betas and alphas and stuff. I've been playing those recently, but I feel like I've never had nothing to play.
Yeah, and it's not like that for me either. It's not like I'm sitting wishing I had more games to play. I mean, like, maybe there's a tiny bit of that, but it's not like I'm not lamenting the fact that there aren't more good games. It's more just like games like Neo and whatever, Persona Zero, and like Splatoon 2 just came out. And granted, I don't own a Switch, so I couldn't play it even if I had, or even if I wanted to. But like, I just feel like there are a lot of games that are of a high quality that I'm glad other people are enjoying, but that aren't for me. Like, I don't really care about those games. It just is in a weird spot because I feel like in years past, like I look back to 2014, which was pretty widely considered a very weak year when it came to games. But last year, 2015, both fairly strong years with lots of big hitting games that I really liked and put a lot of hours into. And this year just hasn't been that way for me. I mean, for me, the biggest game that I've enjoyed, that I've gotten a lot of experience out of, early two. There have been Horizon Zero Dawn, obviously, and then Final Fantasy 12, which I'm currently playing. But that one doesn't really count because, like, it's a remaster of an old game. Like, it doesn't qualify as a 2017 game, whatever. It just feels weird. Like, it feels like I don't feel like this normally happens for me with video games.
Interesting. I don't know. My big one for this year has been Prey.
Okay. But you're also playing Zelda, which has been a huge game.
Oh, that's
like,
a good point.
Put some time into Horizon.
Zelda.
So like I feel like with you, there are big hitting games that you may not have put a ton of time into, but like you were at least interested enough in them to play them. Like I'm not gonna get Neo. Period. Like I know I don't give a shit about that game.
I did play that for a few hours, and it was I could tell it was a good one of those games. I just wasn't motivated to keep playing because I wanted to get the Surge, which is again another Souls-like, the Surge. And I do want to go back and play more of that. It's just things that are higher on my priority list are demanding my attention.
Yeah, I get that. It just, I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up because it feels odd. And we'll get into this a little bit later on in Hate of the Week. A little spoiler for a little teaser, I should say, for Hate of the Week.
The spoiler part of it for me is coming up next.
Part of it for me is just, it's kind of hard to go back and play games that aren't current when I know there are a lot of current games that I should play, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I have a huge backlog, not just in my Steam library, which is like completely overwhelming. I have way too many games in my Steam library to ever play through all of them. But even on PS4, I went through and I was cleaning my, video game box the other day, kind of reorganizing a little bit, and I discovered so many games that like I forgot I have. Like I have GTA 5 and I never played it. I have Far Cry 4 and I probably put 5 hours into that the first time around. And it's like, oh, there are these huge dozens of hours of game that I have in here that I could play, but like, why play that when I feel like I should go play a new game instead? But more on that later. Much larger conversation topic for that. So beyond the litany of great games that we don't care about, what games have you been playing? What stuff have you been watching? What you been reading?
So in terms of reading, I've been reading a potential fall play candidate for the high school I work at.
For next year.
Yeah, I think this is the one I'm going to go with. My co-director found it. It's called You Can't Beat the House. And it's about two burglars break into a house, and it turns out the house is actually for sale, so there's like nothing really valuable in it. And then the clients that are going to be being shown the house, they show up while they're still there, so they have to pretend that they're the real estate agents, and then the real estate agent shows up, so then they have to pretend they're the clients and get the real estate agent out. And then
while like managing both parties at the same time, trying to make sure they don't get in the room together.
Yeah, and then the police show up, and then so they're trying to pretend there's someone else, and then like this other person comes in who's like a medium because the house is supposedly haunted and all this other stuff, and it's just like this huge clusterfuck and like a giant like trying to balance the situation. And the two robber dudes, one of them's a little smarter than the other one. Right, there's always the dumb one, and the dumb one keeps mucking things up, and like the smart one's trying to get the hell out, but the dumb one's like, no, we got to try and help them solve their marriage problems. Like it's really ridiculous, and it's got a frenetic and unforgiving pace that I think will be a lot of fun.
Well, I know when I was in school, high school that is, where you're working, like one of the big things that we always tried to do in the fall, like we always wanted to do a comedy, and we always wanted it to be like a fairly big cast to give lots of people opportunities. And typically that ended up coming down to being, we did like a lot of murder mysteries, like comedic murder mysteries, because they always have a big cast and they're just fun for the other students at the school to watch, because they don't necessarily care about Shakespeare, they don't care about a lot of the heavy dramas, like they want something fun to watch. So it seems like at least with this show, not falling into the murder mystery mold, but it's still that like physical comedy kind of off the wall sort of comedy. So
yeah, I still want to keep
fits.
it a comedy to keep like the students engaged in it, right? When they're watching, because you're right, the majority of them don't give a shit. So and, anything with loud noises, screaming, running around, it'll keep their attention because they're all 5 years old.
Yeah.
Even the seniors in high school are 5 years old when they're watching a play. And so, but like that's why I'm also this year I'm going to be doing. I'm going to set up like a black box on the stage and do monologues for the kids that are really interested in like digging deep, and kind of really trying to expand their the number of roles they can play and their theater experience. So, because I think that's more valuable than doing comedies and stuff for people who are interested in theater, right?
Yeah, for the actors, certainly.
Yeah, and then, we'll do our spring musical like always. But yeah, I mean, we, for years and years and years did, and this is not, a knock against the previous director, but for years we've done murder mysteries every single fall. It's always been a murder mystery. And so this past year we just did a comedy, and everyone was like, oh, thank God it wasn't another murder mystery. Because, like, I the previous director, she did it for 30-odd years, and how do you not just try and fall into a rhythm with it, right? Especially when it's not your primary job. She was also the AP English teacher, so like I understand why it was the way it was, but I'm glad that now I have a co-director and both of us can tackle this thing, that we just have more resources between the two of us and more man hours that we can put in to be able to kind of stretch out a bit and do some other things. So I think that's going to be good for the program and good for community interest, hopefully. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure I found that. In terms of what I've been watching, I went and saw Dunkirk in theaters.
Yes, I saw you wrote that on the list of things to talk about, and I'm very excited to hear your thoughts because I definitely want to see it.
So I like Christopher Nolan. I think the things he does with his sound design and soundtracks are subtle and effective.
Okay.
And this is absolutely no different. I mean, there are many moments that are frightening because, it's these troops they're stuck on a beachhead, right? And the German soldiers are closing in. And then, it's the whole thing about Dunkirk was all these civilian ships came and rescued like 300,000 soldiers off the beach at Dunkirk. And it's like, the way they tell the story is very interesting. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it kind of hops between a few characters and it jumps a little bit around time frame wise, which was a little jarring, and I don't know that it was explained well. And there are also some numbers and figures that show up at the beginning whose meaning I can only really guess at because it was not made clear as to what they were referring to. So that kind of was like bothering me the whole movie because I wasn't quite sure what they meant by the numbers.
Right.
And there were a couple of things that just weren't clear and some characters that I wasn't sure needed to be in it at all. I felt like they were there to maybe pad out the experience a little bit, or maybe to bring some human element to certain groups that were involved. But
well, and then you have Mr. Harry Styles from One Direction in there to get all the tweens in the seats,
right? But also
for this like World War II war movie, but you need all the little teeny bopper girls to come watch it.
Kenneth Branagh from Wallander, he's in it.
Fucking yeah, Kenneth Branagh. Oh, I love Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, I didn't know he was in it, so I was very surprised when he popped up on screen. But it's I was like, my butt cheeks were clenched like the whole movie. It's just intense and you're just anxious the whole time. And I think Christopher Nolan does a really good job of making the audience feel as the soldiers feel. I think he does a really good job with that, and just the way the scenes are directed and everything. So there were a couple things that I thought were maybe like superfluous, like characters and shots and little scenes, and some things that were confusing a little bit to me that maybe I might need to watch the movie a second time to parse. But I thought it was a really, really strong flick.
What inspired you to go see it?
Ever since I saw
that it's Christopher Nolan?
I mean, I'm a really big World War II buff kind of guy. I mean, not that I know a lot of facts. I like it. I like shooting the M1 Garand, as I'm pretty sure I've talked about before. But and so my friend and I saw the trailer and we're like, we are going to see this when it comes out. And then before we knew it, the time was here. And so he's reminded me that it was out, and we went and saw it. So
yeah, I'm very excited to go see it. I'm trying to figure out when I'm going to do it, if I'm just going to like go see it during the week or what, because I've kind of established this rhythm of seeing movies on Sunday mornings because tickets are much cheaper at this theater I go to, and the theater by me has these amazing seats that are like big leather recliners.
Yes.
And so there are fewer people in the theater. But also, like, if you go on a Sunday morning here, tickets are like $6.50, which when I was a kid, that was the normal ticket price. Right. But now, like, if you want to go see a movie on a Saturday night, it's like $11. Yep. If I'm bringing my wife, we get a drink, it's a popcorn, it's like $50 to go see a fucking movie. So I usually try to go on Sunday mornings, and you'd think that there would be like more kids on Sunday mornings, but I feel like they end up coming in the afternoon. Anyway, that's been like prime time to go see movies.
Yeah, that's good.
I may try to go see.
Yeah,
see
anytime I go
Sunday.
see a movie now, it's the Cinemark, I think, DX or XD, Cinemark XD. They have the leather recliners here in Ohio, so that's the theater that we go to that does that. It's just so freaking nice. And like, because even with the recliner out, your feet up, there's still enough space for people to walk by. It's
perfect,
beautiful.
It's good living.
Yeah, and I finally got about watching Sherlock Series 4. So it'd been a long time since I watched Sherlock, so I watched all 4 series kind of in sequence.
Yeah, we did the same thing before season 4 came out.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to refresh myself with those characters and what they had been through. And so I thought Series 4 was really good. It was a bit of a shock finding out who the villain was.
Yeah. I have a review of it on my site. I just posted not too long ago because we were watching it a bit behind as well. I don't want to go into like spoilers of it because I know it's such a popular show, and it just recently got added to Netflix, so I'm sure a lot of other people are watching it now for the first time. Like, the whole reveal was really, really amazing, and when it happened, it was one of those like, holy fuck, my entire life has changed kind of reveals.
Yeah.
Like, having not put the pieces together beforehand. But I felt like the resolution to that, and like that last episode of the season,
that wasn't super strong.
I just felt kind of underwhelmed. Yeah. I just didn't feel like it really came together.
I feel like they needed another episode. Because it felt very rushed near the end.
And it felt like they were trying to capture the magic of the Moriarty stuff again, instead of just moving forward with like a different take. And it just felt a little bit contrived in that sense.
Sure.
But that show is so cool. And I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch and I always forget
Martin
his name.
Freeman.
It embarrasses me. Martin Freeman, thank you. I love both of them. They're both phenomenal actors.
They really are.
Just the way that they work together is really, really cool. I like how those characters interact. But yeah, very good show.
Yeah, and I also watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4. I finished that.
And that I haven't seen yet. I honestly completely forgot that I needed to watch it. And I know it's on Netflix now, so I need to check that out for sure.
Okay. I was just like, it was fine. But they did like a really generic sci-fi trope is the whole crux of the season. And I was just a little eye-rolly for me. But I, took a deep breath, got over it, and decided to just go along for the ride. And I had a decent time with it.
Is there a bigger focus on the whole Inhumans subplot?
No.
Okay. Because that was a big thing in season 3, I guess it was, as the like explanation of why these people are getting superpowers. Remember?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
About the Terrigenesis stuff?
Yes, because the whole point is really these people that were developing superpowers, if all things being equal, they would have been mutants. But Fox owns the rights to the X-Men, so they can't be mutants. So Marvel decided, we'll make them Inhumans instead. They have this, like, whatever Kree blood or whatever the hell, and that's what's giving them these superpowers. And now that they have announced an Inhumans TV show, I'm curious, because I haven't seen season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. yet, I'm curious if there will be any overarching there.
So
because they seem to go hand in hand.
Right, well, because, like, the the process of Terrigenesis and the whole Inhuman thing has already been established, and so it is a part of what's going on, but it's not like it's included and mentioned, and there are like some parts of it that are intertwined into the main story, but that's not the focus.
They're not like trying to get to the bottom of it anymore, because
they've already done that. So it's just like a fact
that
of that universe they've crafted.
How was Ghost Rider?
Better than Nicolas Cage. Actually, I thought he did a pretty nice job. And like at first, the first time he popped up, I was like, "Oh god damn it, fucking Ghost Rider! This is so stupid." But then they actually did some kind of neat things with his character, and like they kind of made him a cool dude. And he does some pretty badass stuff. So, I don't know. I feel pretty good about it.
That show has been. I was really invested in the first season, and I like totally on board for this like fun ride. Yeah. And then the way that Captain America: The Winter Soldier ended with them completely destroying S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of like put the halt on the TV show and had made it change trajectory completely. And then there was the whole turn with what's his face, where he just randomly is a bad guy, and it was like never hinted at or said about any. It was like one of those like really terrible twists. That's completely out of nowhere for no reason, and that really soured me. And then like because they really liked that actor, and I do too, they like kept contriving new ways to keep him on the show, even though his character kept dying. And then like, oh well, now he's possessed by this thing, and then that dies, and then oh well, now he's this character, and then he dies. And so it's been like a very up and down road for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I feel like there are new characters on it all the time, and like they write off these other characters. And I know the chick who played Mockingjay, and I mean, it's been a really long time since I've watched it, so I unfortunately don't really remember character names anymore. But the really hot, tall chick, she was in the comics. She's supposed to be not Mockingbird, rather, not Mockingjay. But and then there's the like quippy British short guy. They like were gonna have a spin-off show, but that got canceled before it even happened, and so like they wrote them off, but then wanted to keep them around. It's just that show's been a bit of a mess, and I know ratings haven't been great for it either. But I just have this like love for the show as like an underdog kind of show. Like I want it to succeed, but I also totally recognize its many, many flaws.
I'm trying to. Okay, so all right. You said a lot of stuff.
Well, I mean, we don't need to go into like, don't go into spoilers or anything, because I'm gonna watch it.
No, I just want you to know that the stuff about the character who goes bad, that like kind of wasn't really given a good reason as to why he goes bad. I think they kind of sort of indirectly addressed that in season 4.
Okay.
That's all I'll say. I might need to go back and like watch season 1 and 2 to kind of see exactly how that happened, but I feel like what they do in season 4 may actually somewhat have a justification for that. So I don't know. Okay. I'll talk to you about it when you've seen it.
Yeah, and that's one of the shows where like now that since I was reminded that it was all available, I wanted to go watch it. But kind of going into the stuff that I've been watching, we just picked up HBO Now, so like their HBO's standalone streaming service that you pay monthly. Yeah. Because so we can watch Game of Thrones. And that way I wouldn't have to like illegally download it or deal with that. Like we'll pay $15 a month to watch Game of Thrones. That's fine. And so obviously we watched the premiere episode. It was phenomenal. I have a review on my site. I'm so excited that show's back. But I wanted to make sure we were taking advantage of paying all this money. And so now we're watching a shit ton of other HBO shows while we have this subscription. So I've been watching, we watched the first season of Togetherness, which I don't know if you have any context for that show, but it's by the Duplass brothers. And Mark Duplass because he played Pete on The League.
I did not watch The League.
Well, then you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about then. But it's a really good show. It's very like quote-unquote real-to-life kind of serio-comedy kind of a show. A lot of mature themes, obviously, because it's HBO, but it's just really, really well acted and written, and I'm really greatly enjoying that. Kelly and I are watching it, and there's a lot of the storyline is about relationships, and especially like the marriage between the two main characters, because their marriage is kind of failing for several different reasons. And it's just been a really good show for Kelly and I, because it's kind of sparked a lot of good conversations about like what matters in a marriage and what things we need to work on and continue to like grow together. So I really appreciated the show because of that.
Yeah.
We also we just actually literally last night just started watching Westworld, which when this was announced, everybody was like, oh, this is going to be the next Game of Thrones. Like, this is the new big show. And it's really fascinating because kind of the concept is, and we're only 3 episodes in, so we're still kind of putting the pieces together.
Oh, this is out already.
Kind of the
Oh,
first
okay.
season aired, and they just announced the second season. So, it's just when they announced it, everybody was like freaking out about it and saying, like, the way that Game of Thrones took the world by storm, everybody was like, Westworld's going to do that now. Like, that's HBO's next Game of Thrones. So we've watched the first 3 episodes of the first season, and the basic concept is I don't even know how to fucking explain this show. It takes place in the future, and there is basically like an amusement park that is the Wild West. And all of the people that live in the park are like cyborg people. Like, they're not real people, they're whatever. But like, they do have some sort of consciousness, and that's like a major theme of the show, of like, some of them are starting to awaken and realize where they are and who they are, because they all believe that they are, this cowboy from this little town. Like, they think that is their reality.
Okay.
And some of them are like figuring out that maybe that isn't the case. There are like little glitches happening. And we also get insight into like the people that run the park. And Anthony Hopkins plays the guy who kind of like invented this whole thing. And he clearly is like off his rocker and maybe instigating some of this awakening that's happening. It's a really fascinating concept, and there are a lot of really good actors in it. It's hard to say because we're only 3 episodes in, but part of my struggle with the show is it's very mysterious, and they lay out a lot of different plot lines, and a lot of them feel pretty disparate right now. And like, I trust that it's a good show, and I trust that they will come together in some sort of way, but I'm not seeing those threads yet.
Okay.
And so a lot of stuff that happens feels like, I don't know why I just spent 10 minutes watching this. It doesn't feel like it matters at all.
I would argue that
And
that's
it's
very
not,
similar to the beginning of Game of Thrones. Just a lot of very disparate storylines happening, like Daenerys over across
fair.
the sea, the White Walkers, all the different...
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I would say that's very
and obviously
similar.
that was a much different experience for me, having like been familiar with that world before. And like, I don't
Right.
mean to totally compare Westworld and Game of Thrones, because like the people behind it are not the same at all. Like, there's no connection there. It was more just like the hype around it, and so that's where the comparisons are drawn.
Okay.
I'm finding myself like, I'm still intrigued. I still want to watch it and see how it comes together, and there's a lot of interesting stuff happening, but on the whole, I'm just kind of like, I don't know how I feel about it yet. And I also find it very interesting because when the show launched, it was everywhere. Everybody was fucking talking about it. And then I feel like that died down really quickly. But the show was also nominated for like 22 Emmy Awards.
Oh,
so
geez.
clearly it's good.
Right.
I mean, maybe not necessarily clearly. It depends on how much you trust, people that award the Emmy nominations. But there's some value to the show, clearly, I should say.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to keep watching that, and I hope that it comes together better than it seems like it is right now. I don't know. It's just a very weird show. And then finally, I watched also the first 3 episodes of The Newsroom, which that show came out a couple years ago. There were 3 seasons. It's an Aaron Sorkin piece, and if you're not familiar with Aaron Sorkin, he did like The Social Network, West Wing, Sports Night. Kind of he's very much what you would consider like an auteur. Like, all his stuff definitely has a similar feel.
Okay.
The characters talk incredibly quickly, and there are like no pauses ever in conversation. Everyone's like rapid fire all the time. And I wouldn't say it's like necessarily a witty kind of a thing, but it's definitely like highly intelligent. And to be honest, like, I've never been a huge Aaron Sorkin person. I feel like his stuff feels a little fake intellectual. Like when he writes, he's sitting with an open thesaurus because he wants to put in a bunch of big words. Right. Not literally, I'm not putting forth judgment. I don't know the guy, but like that's how the stuff comes across. It comes across a little condescending and pretentious, and particularly with the newsroom. I mean, I'm gonna say, like, I had heard really great things about the show. A couple of friends that I have fucking loved it, and it was only 3 seasons. And I was like, oh well, this will be a quick, easy watch since we have HBO for 2 months. And after watching the first 3 episodes, I'm not gonna continue watching it. I dislike all of the characters. I don't find them particularly interesting. The conceit of the show is, I mean, the title, it's a newsroom. It's this dude who is very bright, very politically minded, who got incredibly successful by putting out a news show that both conservatives and liberals liked because he was very safe. And so now he is reinventing himself and taking a stand on the things that he believes in. And part of what is hard for me as a fiscal conservative and social moderate is that on the show, he is a self-proclaimed Republican, like the character is, but that is complete bullshit, and it is only an excuse for him to talk about how terrible modern Republicans are. And like, it's one of those where like a white person can't talk about how shitty black people are, but if it was a black person delivering the same lines, it doesn't feel racist. It's the similar thing where like, if this news guy was a liberal saying the things he was saying, it would be bullshit Hollywood offensiveness. But because they pretend and say that he's a Republican, it's like, oh, well, he can say whatever he wants. And it just feels like bullshit. I always like political shows that aren't afraid to like be what they are. Like, I love House of Cards because Frank Underwood is a Democrat who is more moderate on a lot of things, and like he fights with the Democrats because of that, and also obviously fights with the Republicans a lot because he disagrees with them a lot. But I never feel like what he believes and says goes against his political ideologies. Fucking everything this character on the newsroom says I'm like, dude, you are not a Republican at all. Nothing you are saying makes me think that you're a Republican. Like, if you like it's very annoying. And that's not even as someone that is more conservative, moderate, and not liberal. Like, it's not even that. It just feels fake, and it really annoys me and feels dishonest to the character. But the larger complaint is that it's just a fucking pretentious show, and I don't think it's good.
So you think I should watch it, right? I'm coming away from that with that knowledge. Everyone go watch the newsroom. I mean,
it's certainly a quote-unquote smart show, but like, it's that kind of smarmy smartness that it doesn't set out to educate its audience. It sets out to say, you should already know this, fucking moron. And that, it just is so because like the whole conceit is like, his core thing is like, he believes that American voters should be educated on what's happening so they can vote for really what they believe, and have the news not be manipulated by corporations and by politics. And that ideology, like, yes, like, I will clap for that all day long. If that was a politician saying that, 100%, you have my vote. Like, that is what the news should be, not this sensationalist, kind of obsessed with ratings and viewers and, like, clearly showcasing a person's personal opinion on the news, which is supposed to be about fact and education. Like, all of that, yes, 100%. But the show doesn't do that whatsoever. Right. All it is him yelling about his opinion and what he thinks and why he is smart and everyone else is stupid. It's, like, so dichotomous and terrible. That show sucks. I'm sorry. It just does. It sucks. But just quickly...
This episode of the Shea Hates Everything podcast brought to you by the creators of the newsroom. Probably lost the sponsorship.
Yet again, losing them before we even get them. But we've also, and this is not HBO related, but Kelly and I, we always like to have shows to watch, because like we have a standing Friday night date night where either we'll like order Uber Eats, or we'll go out and get dinner, we'll make dinner at home, and then we get drunk. And like, that's like our standing Friday night thing. We've been doing it for months and months and months, and it's a great time. So we always want to have a show to watch while we drink, so we can make up a drinking game, and it's not something we really have to pay attention to. So we've been watching, because like, this is how I got into Jersey Shore, and Yes, it's embarrassing. My defense about the Jersey Shore is I don't give a shit about any of those people. If every episode was an hour of all of them lighting themselves on fire, I would enjoy it just as much as what the show actually is. I think they're all deplorable human beings. I watch it specifically to make fun of them and feel better about myself. I'm not invested in the characters. I don't give a shit about the relationships. It's not like how people watch reality TV. That's my defense of the Jersey Shore. But we also watch like competition shows. And I don't like competition shows that feel orchestrated or like for shock value, like America's Got Talent, whatever. Like, so much of that shit is just dumb and for shock value. I want to watch a competition show with people who are talented doing things that are good. So we watch a lot of dance shows. So we're watching So You Think You Can Dance, which we've been watching for years. That show's amazing. Dance is one of those art forms that, like, I could never do it, which only makes me respect it so much more. And just the ability for people to, like, express all these like inner feelings and thoughts and emotions and just use their entire body to express those things, I just think is very magical. But there's also a new show called World of Dance, which is a similar thing, but it's like, so they have kid dancers, soloists, adult groups, that kind of thing. And it was a spin-off of the YouTube channel World of Dance, which I've been following for a long time because I, in my deepest heart of hearts, want to be a hip-hop dancer, and so they have a lot of hip-hop dance on World of Dance, so I like to watch those videos. But we watch both of those shows a lot because I like watching dancers be good at dance. And we also, of course, are watching American Ninja Warrior because that show's amazing.
Yes.
So just wanted to throw those out. All of those are on Hulu, and those are really fun Friday night watches. So now that I've been super long-winded about my hate for the newsroom and confusion over Westworld and dislike of reality TV, what video games have you been playing?
So I got into the Destiny 2 beta, and I played that, and that game is Destiny.
Yep, I've been playing it as well. I was excited to talk to you about it.
Like, it's still just, it feels great, man. And that's the thing that kept drawing me back to the first Destiny is no other console shooter feels as good to play as Destiny. I think it is, in my opinion, which is fact, that it is the best, the best feeling console FPS. Like, more so than Call of Duty, even. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it feels better than Call of Duty, just because the pace of the enemies, everything is designed around really solid, tight gunplay. And then they have all the, this loot system and everything that kind of plays into your slowly increasing your character's level, yada, yada, yada. And it just, the game's got some style to it, and it feels great, and I know I'm going to buy it when it comes out, because...
That's my thing about it. Like, honestly, I've been frustrated playing the demo, just because... And we talked about this before it even came out, but just the stuff they've included isn't enough to sell me on it, because it's just the same thing. Like, the story mission that's in it is better than the story missions in the first game. Like, there is actual story and, like, characters, and you interact with NPCs during the missions, which is cool. Yeah, and then there's the strike, which feels like literally nothing about that strike feels different than strikes you played in the first game. And, like, I played around a little bit with the PvP. I just don't like competitive shooters, and so that's not something I'm really going to dive into. But, like, playing those, I'm like, yep, this is more Destiny. I definitely put a lot of time into the first Destiny, but I didn't have fun with most of it, so no thank you. But then I sit and think about it, I'm like, I'm buying this game.
Yeah,
like,
but also the thing with Destiny is
2.
You also didn't play it with people a whole lot. You were playing it solo a lot, and then, like, grouping with randoms for raids and stuff.
Yes.
Like, I only ever played Destiny when I was playing with someone else, and I had a much better time for it.
Yeah.
And so that's exclusively
totally
how I intend to play Destiny 2.
Yeah, I just need to make more friends. That's the basic core of the problem.
Yeah. Well, because, like, I've tried to play... I've been playing Overwatch recently, too, and I've tried to play that by myself, and I have told myself I will not play that if I'm not playing with people I know. For Overwatch. I'll just do the same thing with Destiny, and if that means I don't get a whole lot of hours out of it, that's fine. But I know when I am playing with my friends, it's going to be a really good time, and it's going to feel good, and that's enough to justify the price for me, at least.
I just get frustrated because they could have done so much more with Destiny 2, having taken a break after that most recent DLC and like said, okay, we're not going to put out any more little small updates. We're going to focus full on the sequel, and even delaying it. Like, they just could have done so much more with this game, and it just feels like the same fucking game again, just theoretically with more of it and like really small, quality of life tweaks, which are all smart. But it's just like, I don't know, I just can't help but feel disappointed that this is the Destiny 2 we're getting, considering Destiny 1 was so far away from what that game could have and should have been. And this was their opportunity to like right that ship. And they just didn't at all. And that really bums me out. But then again, I'm also totally part of the problem because I'm going to buy this fucking game, and so I'm contributing to the issue. And it just, the whole situation makes me angry at Bungie, at Activision, and mostly at myself.
Yeah, I think like for you keep wanting Destiny to be something that it's not, instead of just accepting it for what it clearly is and just like being okay with that.
What it clearly is a mechanically sound shooter that is incredibly repetitive. Like, yes, the actual
it's
shooting,
an MMO, dude. That's what they all are.
See, I don't think so, man, because MMOs have story, and this, yes, seems to have an improved main story, but MMOs have side missions. They have emergent stories that happen. They have those like holy shit moments that you tell your friends about the next day. And Destiny 1 had fucking none of that. Like, yes, it had some of the mystery, especially with the Taken King DLC that came out. Like, on the ship, there were things to discover, but they were so, like, obtuse and random. And it was like, once you figured out how to do it, it's just rinse, wash, and repeat over and over and over again. Like, once those hidden things were discovered, there was nothing else to it. It was just, yet again, doing the same shit over and over again. And nothing I've seen about Destiny 2 makes me feel like that has changed. It totally could have. Like, I hope that they're holding their cards close to the vest, and they have a lot of that mystery and that emergent story that will happen that you would expect in an MMO. It just, to me, feels like Destiny takes the worst parts of an MMO, which is like the grind and the repetition, and the worst parts of a shooter, which is like not having characters and story, and combines them together. Like, that sounds like a shitty game to me.
We're still gonna get it.
No, you're fucking right I am, because I am an idiot and I hate myself.
Yep. I've also been playing...
So expect lots more bitching about Destiny 2 come September.
Yeah, oh, for sure. I've been playing a lot of Fortnite because that released it released a few days ago for people who had beta access, I think.
Okay.
So I got in a day earlier than even the 4-day early pre-order people.
Ooh.
And then I've been playing it since. And speaking of Fortnite, I really need to play that today so I can get my bonus XP. So like every day you get a lot of bonus experience for like the first couple missions that you play.
Okay.
So I totally need to cash in on that. There's also like daily login rewards. That game is like systems on systems on systems. It's like every free-to-play Nightmare model, but they at least have it so you can earn everything in game. It's not the only like purchase part is if you want to buy more of those like pinata packs that have random shit in them,
right.
More loot boxes. But like I've found that I'm earning loot boxes at a pretty good clip anyways, because they're like daily challenges and like just ongoing challenges that you can complete that give you the currency that you can use to buy stuff. And then as part of like daily login rewards, if you play for a week, you get a free box and stuff like that. So, I don't know. The game it's pretty cool. It'd be a lot more fun if I was playing with someone I knew, because right now I'm just playing with randoms. But even that's still been pretty fun.
Like, does the teamwork aspect work when you're not playing with people who you know?
Yeah, because it's so at the part that I'm at, like I'm still pretty early on in terms of like level and stuff. It's not that hard. Like sometimes I set up these really elaborate tower defense setups, and then I just kill all of the enemies before they even reach the front door. Like, so that's been an issue. And then also, now I did go into an area where I was supremely underleveled. Like it said, the thing was like, oh, it's for level 5 to 9 characters, and I was level 6. and or I was lightning 6. I don't know if that's a level, but lightning 6 was the number and the symbol assigned to me. And I was like, okay, yeah, just hop in here, random mission or whatever. But I think I hopped into someone else's match who was a much higher lightning than me.
Gotcha.
And all of the enemies were lightning 19, and they were like two-shotting all of us.
Yeah.
But we still managed to pull it off and like complete the mission, which was really cool. It was hard, and it was awful and terrible, but also kind of fun. And neat that we managed to finish it. And I got like some cool rare stuff from it too, which was kind of extra cool. But the inventory is a problem. And I know like if you got like the super duper $150 edition, you have like bigger backpack and bigger storage stuff.
That's annoying.
Yeah. And so the thing I'm not clear on is there's this giant skill tree. And I think throughout the skill tree, there are spots where I can increase my inventory little by little. But that's a slow trickle, right? And so it is a lot of managing, like, okay, I have a couple of lower level of these traps, so I'll just keep the really rare ones and use them when I really need them, and I'll recycle the other ones for base components kind of stuff. And there's a ton of crafting, so like you're picking up, constantly getting schematics, and you can like level up the schematics to make better versions of stuff, and you get these like defenders who you can spawn in during missions as like extra AI to help shoot, but you have to give them a weapon and ammo. So it's like kind of if you want to kind of solo stuff, that's a good way to do it. And I mean, ammo's usually not a problem because you can craft it pretty cheap, and it gives you a lot, and you can find it in the environment a lot too. But there's like a few different ammo types for the different types of weapons, and so there's defenders you can spawn in, and then there's people you can send out on expeditions to you just send them out, and in 4 hours they return with stuff if they succeeded, kind of thing. And then there's people you slot into a squad, which gives you like buffs for missions and stuff. It's really crazy, and a lot of them have their own XP bank that they upgrade from. And so when you get loot boxes or you complete missions and stuff, you're getting XP for those types of characters and things. Like there's schematic XP, there's hero XP for your main people that you play, and then there's survivor XP. It's really, really crazy. And then like the kind of way you chart your progress through the game is you have a home base that you're returning to and adding traps and stuff onto. Which is kind of neat, and then you like do a giant big really hard wave based thing, and so that's where I've been saving like my defenders and stuff. I've been putting them at my home base and giving them weapons and stuff so they can help me defend it, because like your bubble's expanding, and so then you have like more space to build and lay traps as the enemies spawn in and stuff. It's really neat, like the mashup of things you can do. And then there are missions where like you just have to go and save this many survivors, and if you save extra survivors you get bonus stuff like bonus chests at the end of the mission. It's crazy. There's a lot there, and I know a lot of people were worried about the amount of content going into it at the beginning, but there's a ton of shit to do. Like it's a pretty big game, and the really cool thing is everything in the level is breakable. Like fucking, you could tear an entire building down if you wanted to into base components. It might take you a while, and in the skill tree there are things that speed up the process of mining stuff. But it's a really, really fun game. I've been having a good time with it, and it's got a good style and an alright sense of humor.
Yeah, I really liked the visual side of it and the kind of the sense of humor that I like that from the trailers.
Yeah, and like the enemies are very evocative of like the Plants vs. Zombies. Yeah. It's very much that style, which I really like. And yeah, it's as I'm going, I'm encountering new enemy types as well. And like, so that one match where I was like way out leveled, there were like 6 or 7 enemy types I'd never seen before, and I had no idea how to fight any of them.
Right.
And so that made it extra tough. But I think that experience will help me when I finally get there naturally. But it's just, it seems like there's a lot going on. Like I just at my low level, like I think I'm only level 6 right now. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's at least 7 or 8 different types of enemies that I'm encountering, and that's not counting like the 7 or 8 other dudes I saw at the high level. So it seems like there's a good variety of enemies.
And they all kind of require different strategies and have different weaknesses and stuff.
Yeah, and like every time, so like you have a world map that you're jumping into for each mission, and every time you load in to an area, it's randomly generated, but like kind of the same tile set, but just randomly generated from that tile set. And so the locations of stuff is always different. And so it helps keep it fresh, right? It doesn't feel like you're rerunning the same stuff over and over again.
Right.
So it's a really, really cool game. I think the time it spent in development has been well spent.
That's good.
I think
and I'm not surprised there are so many things happening in that game, considering how long they've been working on it. That's
right.
A lot of opportunity to like create new systems and that kind of thing.
Right, but I'm running into the situation where I did with Warframe, where I jumped back into Warframe and just so confused by all the shit that's going on.
Okay, just because there's so much.
Yeah, there's so much, and this is that all over again for me. And so I don't know that it does a decent job of explaining stuff, but there are people who've been playing it since the alpha several years ago that are like in global chat, and you can just hit them up for questions.
That's cool.
Which is really neat.
There's a good community for it.
Yeah, like I ask a question, and within 20 to 30 seconds, like 3 or 4 people answer it for me.
That's awesome.
It's been really cool. And that might just be a caveat of it just having come out, right?
Sure.
But like I feel like now that I'm knowledgeable and stuff, I've been answering a couple people's questions in chat too. So I think as a community, that knowledge base will grow and kind of sustain itself to help new players who are feeling overwhelmed. So like if anyone listening to this wants to jump in, just ask questions in chat. If you ever have a question, just ask it, and most people will have an answer for you.
I think one of the good things about it, because it's a co-op competitive shooter, it makes it a lot more like there's not as much competition of like I want you to do poorly. It kind of serves everybody that everyone is good.
Yeah, so it's like by default it's kind of it's like a good atmosphere to be in and be a part of, and I think Epic has a good game there, and I'm excited to see where they take it and how it expands and grows from where it is. So
have they talked at all about like how they plan to support it?
Yeah, so right now, like to pay to get in, this is the early access, but when the game comes out, it will be free to play. So that's the kind of
on PC.
Yes, I don't know the
on
answer
console.
to that.
I mean, the disc you have to pay for. Like I don't think there's a free version on console, at least not that I've seen.
Well, right. So no free versions yet, but I'm wondering if possibly there will be a free digital version in the future. Yeah, like 1.0 or whatever. That's what I don't have the answer to. But I'm okay with it. Like, I get why they're charging for it, right? This game's been in development for how long? And they need money to keep making it. And the product that they have, I think, is good enough that I spent $40 on the standard version on PC, and I already feel comfortable with having spent that $40, and I've only been playing it for a few days. Like it's a good time. Like it blends a lot of genres that I personally am a fan of, and so it's kind of a no-brainer for me. But yeah, I think there's a lot there to enjoy, and it has surprised me in a pleasant way so far.
Cool. All right, well, we got to move on to some new stuff. But the only other thing I wanted to mention that I've been playing is more Final Fantasy 12. I'm just having a really good time going back through that game. It's very easy to go and play and turn the volume down, put it on ×2 speed, listen to a podcast while I play.
Right.
It's just like a really nice relaxation game. I try to play it a couple hours like every weekend, just like on a Saturday or Sunday when I'm feeling lazy.
Yeah.
So it's been a very nice relaxing game.
Yeah, just real quick, my friend Cody, he got it and he was playing it and he screwed himself over by not choosing a white mage for any of his characters.
Yikes.
Or a red mage, so he couldn't use any heal magic, and you can't change your character classes once you've committed in that game. And he was like 21, 22 hours in before he kind of realized this and was like getting stonewalled, and so he's like, I think I'm done with this forever, so I might be buying it off of him.
I will say at least 3 of the characters learn some cure magic just by themselves.
Oh.
But yeah, like they come with it. Like I know Fran and Pinello and I think Ash all just know cure right from the beginning.
Yeah, but that's low level stuff.
Yes, but it's something.
Right.
And there are tons of items and stuff to get rid of status ailments. So I'll have more thoughts on that when we have a little more time to talk about it in the next episode or something. But I definitely think the class-based thing is interesting. And the way mine worked out, because I'm at a point where all my guys have 2 classes, and the way it worked out, like all 12 classes are represented by my 6 characters.
Okay.
And like I didn't plan it out necessarily that way, but it certainly seems to be like a good way to go, because I have like 2 teams of 3, and I don't really mix and match them because they're all kind of specialized in specific ways where like these 3 work well together and these other 3 work well together. And one of my teams of 3 doesn't have a white mage, but like Vaughn, who's kind of my healer on that side, is a red mage, so he knows some white magic, and he knows like a lot of like the quote-unquote green magic to help get rid of some status ailments, and knows a little bit of black magic to do some damage, that kind of thing. And I feel like the setup that I have works relatively well, because that group like is more focused on quick damage. Like they have my 2 like highest damage dealing dudes are on that team, so it's just it was fun to mix and match and find the right pairings, which I never really did in the first version of the game because everybody could learn everything. And so it's like you get a little bit of specialization, but like you're going to teach everyone Cure. You're going to teach everyone Asuna, like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so it didn't really matter what makeup your team was. In this, it definitely matters a lot more. So it sucks that Cody, obviously, but, you know, also, if there's a class called a white mage, someone should probably be a white mage.
I know, right?
Not sure there's anyone to blame but himself, not gonna lie, but that does suck.
I think he was under the impression that he
experience.
Could change that later, and because he wanted to like see what all the classes were, probably.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, it's just a really big bummer. So I might be buying it off of him, hopefully. But nice. I do hope he like chooses to go back and restart it, because I think that game has a lot to offer for players.
Well, did he get to the point where he can choose 2 classes per character? Because that would solve that problem.
Oh, I don't know.
Because I didn't do that. Like when you pick a first class, I didn't have anybody that was a white mage because a lot of the characters already had cure magic and like there were plenty of items. But you get to a certain point, it's actually the first Esper that you fight, Ifrit. Once you get to him, you can unlock a second class for everybody. So it's like relatively early on that you can unlock a second class, and that would solve that problem.
Yeah,
I'll
ask him.
I would let him know just in case. Okay, so but moving on, obviously San Diego Comic-Con's like the big thing that we're going to talk about. It's just going to be a lot of like quick hit stuff of like, hey, this thing's happening, there's a trailer for this, and kind of what we're feeling. But before that, the big news that came out about Telltale, like ironically after my big rant about Telltale last week, is they've announced the 2nd season for Batman the Enemy Within, a final, I believe, 4th season of The Walking Dead,
Sounds
and
right.
then fucking finally they have officially announced The Wolf Among Us Season 2 is happening. So for Batman, like I still haven't played the first season. I plan on it. I know you just finished it. Like, are you excited for the next one?
Yeah, I'll probably play it. I think it's good enough to justify playing another one. There were some cool things in there.
And I mean, it's Batman. Like it's just fun to kind of be in that world. For The Walking Dead, like I finished, I think, the 2nd season of The Walking Dead. Never played, I think it was The New Frontier was the 3rd season. Never touched the Michonne standalone. So like this big final 4th season doesn't really do anything for me.
The Michonne mini thing was really good. I think you'd enjoy that.
That's good. Cool. I might check that out at some point. But then Wolf Among Us 2 was like the big one for me. I love the Wolf Among Us, and I know it didn't like set the world on fire in terms of sales, which was the big reason why they never made any announcement about season 2. But just kind of the fan reaction has been like, you guys need to fucking make this. So I guess there was enough of a justification to do it. So
that's good.
That one I'm definitely excited about, but I am not welching on that statement I made in the last episode. Like, I'm not buying any of these until I feel confident that their shit is going to work. And like, I'm not asking them to totally redo their engine. Like, I know that's a huge investment. That's what I want them to do. But at a core, like, I'm not going to buy any of these until they come out and reviews aren't saying, oh, make sure you're saving whenever possible because it might just fucking delete your entire game. Like, I'm
right.
not going to play. I'm not giving them money until they fix that shit.
Yeah, I totally get that. And again, I will just hopefully get them for free.
Yeah, fair enough. So moving on to actual San Diego Comic-Con news. So a lot of it is around kind of like this huge stuff about superheroes in modern culture and what Marvel has done for superheroes on TV and in film has been so crazy. It just pervades everything. Like there are just so fucking many comic book related shows and movies that it's just overwhelming. Not even just beyond there being so many good games and so many good movies and just in general, but there are so many like superhero specific ones that like I can't hope to ever watch all of them. And there were ones like they showed trailers and stuff at Comic-Con of like I forgot this show even fucking existed. Like I guess there was some big news about Legends of Tomorrow, which is I think it's on the CW. It focuses on like I know it has what's the character's name? He helps out Booster Gold a lot. I don't remember, but Rip Hunter, and the Atom is in it. Like I completely fucking forgot that show existed, and there was like some big announcement about the new season. I'm like, okay, no idea. Like I have not watched the show at all. There were obviously big things about the new season of Arrow and Flash, and they had stuff about Black Lightning and Supergirl. Like I haven't watched any of those shows. I've seen like the first 5 or 6 episodes of Arrow, and that's it. I want to watch all these shows. There's just too many of them. How are we supposed to watch all these fucking shows?
Right.
Like it almost makes me angry, like because
so like,
like
the thing
no
that frustrates
human
me about
can watch all of these.
Yeah, the thing that frustrates me about all of these freaking all these like freaking superhero shows and movies and everything is it's like the comics are literally impossible for your average person to parse and go through and understand, right? It has been going on for so long, and like how an average person is supposed to figure out where to start and what to read, that's fucking impossible, right? Like there's no way anyone can figure that out on their own. And so here they have new mediums like television shows are finally getting like big scope TV shows with like good decent budgets, and then there's all these films happening. This is their chance to make it easy for consumers to engage with and consume their content, and they're still fucking it up by making everything fucking confused. Like there's like 5 different Flashes and like all the different versions of every fucking superhero in the cinematic and the TV universe and the comic universe. It's got just pick a fucking one and go with it, man. It's fucking stupid.
And a lot of it comes down to rights too, at least like on the Marvel side, because like we were saying earlier, since Fox owns the rights to X-Men and to Mutants, they're milking that shit for all they can. Like there are multiple quote-unquote mutant-related shows. There was Legion, which I think is still happening on FX, and then there's a new show, Gifted, which is also about mutants, and it's like those have nothing to do with the Marvel thing because it's a separate property.
And like how can rights be that big of a mess these days? Like it doesn't feel right.
Well, I mean, that it just goes back to back in the day, like Marvel was in really big trouble and they were like on the verge of bankruptcy. And so they sold off the rights to all these characters to keep them afloat, which is why Fox owns X-Men and Fantastic Four and Sony owns Spider-Man. It's just because they had to do something. Otherwise, they were going to go belly up.
Right.
Yeah. But there were at least some things that were talked about on shows and movies that I know something about, thankfully. So they showed a new trailer for Defenders, and I am excited for the show because the dudes running it were from Daredevil Season 2. And I think Daredevil, of the 4 Marvel Netflix shows, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage, Daredevil is the only one that is good. So I am very glad that they're the ones running the show. But also, my biggest problem with Jessica Jones was the storytelling and the writing. Like, the character I thought was fine. It was more just like the arc of the show. It was like they didn't have enough ideas. So every episode was like, we catch Kilgrave. He talks me into letting him go, or he escapes. In the next episode, we catch him. And it's just rinse and repeat, which was like really boring and annoying. And with Iron Fist, the character is just uninteresting. Like, the actor was uninteresting, which is the same problem I had with Luke Cage. But because it's a show about the 4 of them, I have more faith that it'll be a little more tolerable. and that those characters won't annoy me so much because they're not having to carry a show on their own.
Right.
So I do have hope for Defenders, even though I have been really, unfortunately, underwhelmed with the Marvel Netflix team up so far. Have you seen any of them?
Yeah, I've watched all of them, and
really?
I found things to like with all of them.
How have we not talked about this?
I don't know.
Well, we'll have to dive
them.
deeper into these. I didn't, because I know like you kind of come and go on a lot of the superhero stuff, and you watch some of it, but not all of it. We're gonna have to talk about this in a future episode because there's a lot more to dive. Because like I want to hear your thoughts on all of those shows. But yeah, so like the fact that it's the two guys from Daredevil that are running this make me a lot more excited. And kind of on that, they also announced season 2 for Iron Fist, because I mean, obviously, I know the show certainly had a lot of criticism, which I thought was well deserved, but it still was popular and there's potential there.
I still liked it.
The guy who was the main writer showrunner, his last name's Buck, I can't remember his name now, but he is out as showrunner for the second season.
Okay.
Let me see, I wrote a note for this. Oh, so the new showrunner was an EP on Sleepy Hollow, which I haven't seen, but I had heard good things about. And it seems like actually a show that you would like, Kyle. I
think it's on my Netflix queue to watch.
Yeah. It's, I think you would dig it. But he also was a producer on the Elektra movie, which not super, like, doesn't make me feel great.
It was a movie.
Yeah, but I definitely think it's a step up from the dude that ran the first season, just because from a storytelling perspective, character perspective, and just like a lot of valid criticism on how it dealt with Asian American culture and like the whole karate kung fu methodology in Asian culture, and it just didn't handle a lot of that super well. So a change in hands, I think, is a net positive for that show. I don't think that's going to get rid of my issues with Finn Jones just being kind of a flat actor for that character and not being right for all of the martial arts that's happening. Like when it's a character who is literally the best martial artist on the planet, and every single scene he is in, it is embarrassing how terrible he is with the choreography, that doesn't really go well together. So I don't see that problem being remedied, but at least like from a storytelling perspective, hopefully that'll be an improvement. Unfortunately, the dude who was running that show isn't out of a job, because he is going to be running the Inhumans show on ABC, which we talked a little bit about earlier. This show looks like hot trash.
Okay, thank God. I didn't want to have to say it.
Like flaming, steaming pile of trash, just like out in the backyard, like a tire fire. Just the smell, like it's that fucking neighbor that you hate because he just burns his leaves and his garbage, and everyone in the fucking neighborhood hates him, but whenever they try to call the cops, he's able to cover it up and you just can't catch him in the act. That's what the Inhumans trailers have been like. And it's such a fucking shame, because the dude that played Ramsay Snow, I don't remember his name because it's a really unique name. Anyway, he is playing the villain on this show, and I think he's a phenomenal actor, and it just seems like that's a huge waste, because that show, it doesn't look good.
What product do you think that redheaded chick uses? Like Garnier or something? Like Fructis?
Oh, man. Oh, the effects.
So terrible.
The effects of that hair. It looked like they just
bad.
Drew it with a crayon. Like, just...
This is like trailers. Blurry and like a mob of color. It was brutal. It was bad.
It's brutal. And like it's difficult because like the basic concept of the Inhumans being this kind of like higher plane of pretentious asshole aliens, and like Black Bolt as the leader of them, he literally kills people by speaking. Like his voice can shatter the universe, so he doesn't talk ever. Kind of hard to make that translate to a visual medium like television, where characters, talk to each other. So I'm not sure what they were thinking when it came to that concept, and just not like I think they put out 2 or 3 trailers in the past year or so about this, and just everything about it just looks like a fucking nightmare. So at least there's one superhero show that I don't feel obligated to watch.
Totally.
Also on the superhero train, sticking with the Marvel side, they showed a new trailer for Thor Ragnarok, which, like, there's been a bit of a mixed reaction, which I don't get, because, like, the trailers I've seen of it look rad as hell. It's got, like, a really awesome, like, 80s neon vibe to it that I really dig, and it's taking clear inspiration from the success of Guardians of the Galaxy and making this kind of space, this like spacefaring adventure, making it a little more fun, because Thor, and especially Thor the Dark World, were so self-serious at times, and it just, the writing and especially Chris Hemsworth acting could not carry that kind of storytelling. It just needed more humor. And so I like the kind of more lighthearted take, more like buddy comedy action adventure take. I'm super excited about it, but I get why people might feel like it feels too different from the other two Thor movies. I get that, but like the other two Thor movies were two of the worst Marvel movies, so why wouldn't they want to change the attitude? That's kind of my feeling on it.
Yeah, and it definitely felt like more Guardians of the Galaxy, like you said, and like Far Cry Blood Dragon. I was getting vibes of like that 80s neon. And I also noticed that everyone now has short hair for no reason at all. Like even the Hulk's hair is shorter.
Oh, really? Like the actual Hulk?
It's like buzzed on the sides and like shorter on the top. Yeah, even the Hulk's hair is shorter.
I mean, that's like the next cool look. Like for a while it was the dudes with the slicked back with the beard, and now it's like short hair with the beard. Like that's the cool new look. And no more of the man bun bullshit. So they gotta keep. Thor's gotta keep with the times. You know how modern and like hip Thor is.
The Asgardians are.
Yeah. On the DC side of things, we got a new trailer for Justice League. I still have zero faith in that movie until everyone tells me it's good. I'm not seeing that movie until the reviews come out. I have zero faith in Zack Snyder. Like, the fact that they're introducing a bunch of new characters in their team movie makes no fucking sense. Like, how could you not learn from what Marvel did and like introduce these characters by themselves and then you bring them together, because then all of the personalities are established. Yeah, like you care about these characters and their individual journeys, and now the fun is seeing them come together. With this, like, the only characters we know hardly anything about are Superman, who's fucking dead in this movie, Wonder Woman, who the real character stuff we've seen of her has been taking place 80 years ago, and then a little bit of Batman, but he barely does anything in Batman versus Superman. It's just like, it just seems weird to like come out with Justice League this early on. I feel like they should have put out Aquaman first and Flash first, and then done this movie. But maybe it's just like they were, and I know this has been planned for a while, but I feel like part of it might have been reading the tea leaves that like the DC expanded universe hasn't exactly been setting the world on fire. And so the best way to get people to come see a movie is to just do the Justice League first, because I feel like they recognize that they would sell less tickets to Aquaman than to Justice League. And then if Aquaman is cool in Justice League, then people will go see a standalone. Like, that makes sense from a fiscal perspective, but not from a storytelling perspective.
Well, no, I agree. And like, okay, that makes more sense. I'm hoping they don't try to put their origin stories in the movie. I hope they just have them as like they are established characters, so people see them and go, okay, I wonder why this is the take of Aquaman they're doing. And I haven't gotten a vibe
that they're going to include the origin stuff, because I think that's definitely a correct point that you make, and I'll at least give them that, you know, anticipatory credit. It doesn't seem like they're doing that, which I do think is smart.
Yeah, because then that's just, it wastes time and splits focus and is bad. But just like that third Spider-Man movie.
Yes. But actually, in the actual trailer, we got to see the first instance of Steppenwolf, who's going to be the villain. He is a toady of Darkseid, who everybody originally thought...
Okay.
Like, originally this was going to be a two-parter, because, yet again, they wanted to copy Marvel and do a two-parter Infinity War. So this was going to be a two-parter Justice League movie. And so everybody's like, oh, okay, we know that Darkseid is going to be the big bad, but there needs to be a big bad for the first part. And so I'm not sure if they're still sort of following that. They've said that it's not like Justice League 1, Justice League 2. They are more standalone. But Steppenwolf is a toady of Darkseid, and they have all of the parademons are like the grunt bad guys, like the robotic looking dudes with wings that you see them all fight in the trailers. Those are the parademons. They're from Darkseid's world, and so clearly they're still setting that up, especially in Batman vs Superman. Those dreams that Batman had that had like the Darkseid Omega symbol on the sand, like they're clearly setting that up as the big thing. But it was cool to see Steppenwolf. Like, he looks cool. He looks sort of generic. Like, he looked very much like Ares from the Wonder Woman movie, and also the Ragnarok character from the Thor trailer, like a big horned flaming monster. It is comic book, so it's all a little bit generic. But there was also big rumors coming around that Green Lantern's going to be in this movie. They're still planning on making a standalone Green Lantern Corps movie.
Okay, so the third Green Lantern, is that what it would be now? Or is it just the second Green Lantern?
It'd be the second one.
Okay, because who was the first one?
Ryan Reynolds.
Ryan Reynolds, that's right.
But that's not canon. Like, that doesn't exist anymore, which is
Right.
smart of them to ignore. It is a shame because Ryan Reynolds was fucking born to play Hal Jordan, even more so than he was born to play Deadpool. But they're not going to bring him back for that. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they had Jon Stewart be Green Lantern because he's black, and I know they want more representation in these, which is one of the reasons they made Cyborg a founding member of the Justice League in these movies, which, like, totally respect that decision. I think it's very smart. And because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if they made Jon Stewart the Green Lantern in this universe. One, because it's another black character, and two, it gets them farther removed from the Green Lantern standalone movie, because then they can just ignore Hal Jordan entirely. But there were two scenes in the trailer that people are saying, oh, well, Green Lantern. So there's one scene where there's like the plane flying, and there's this like green flash under it that looks like it could be Green Lantern. And then also at the end of the movie, there's like a whole like, oh, I was waiting for you to show up thing that Alfred has. That my first instinct was like, well, this is Superman, because obviously Superman's coming back. We know he's not dead based on the end of Batman versus Superman. And so I figure he'll come back before the very end of this and actually be a part of the story. They certainly aren't advertising it that way, so it could be Superman. But the people have said, like, if you watch that trailer, the reflection in Alfred's glasses and, like, in the scene, there's, like, a green tint to it. So it looks like it might be Green Lantern. Okay. I think that totally makes sense because they are still doing the Green Lantern Corps movie, and so it makes sense that they'll want to introduce the character here. Again, it just feels like introducing a lot of characters in this movie, though. So
right, yeah, that's a ton.
I have no faith in this movie whatsoever. I hope that I am wrong, just like I hoped I was going to be wrong with Batman vs Superman and wasn't. Just like I hoped I was going to be wrong with Suicide Squad and wasn't. I hope I'm wrong with Justice League. I don't think I'm going to be, but we'll see. They also announced that Wonder Woman 2 is officially happening. Surprise, surprise. I'm glad it is. That movie was great. Yeah. Jeff Johns is actually writing the script, which I think is really good as well. They haven't confirmed whether or not Patty Jenkins is directing. I would imagine she will again, which I think is also smart. But the rumor has been that this movie won't be set in modern day like they had originally said, but will actually take place in the 60s during like the Cold War era, which I think would be cool. And again, thinking about their kind of branding for this, again, I think is smart because with the complete train wreck that the DCEU is right now, Wonder Woman is like the only good thing to come out of that stuff. And one of the reasons it was good is because it was totally separate from the modern Justice League stuff. So for them to make a sequel and also make it standalone, I think is very smart, because then that movie can succeed and be good on its own and not have to worry about tying into all the fucking garbage happening with the other movies. So I think it'd be smart if they did that. It's not confirmed, it's just a rumor, but I think that would be super cool. You still haven't seen Wonder Woman.
I have not. I really need
dude,
to.
You need to fucking see it. And like I said when we originally talked about it, like, it's not an amazing movie, but it's a very solid movie, and like not even close. It is far and away the best DC movie that we've gotten from this new canon. So it's definitely worth.
It isn't in theaters anymore, is it?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it's only been out for like a month.
Okay.
Maybe
I
more.
might have to try and catch that.
It was. I mean, it was really successful. I'm sure
it comes out on DVD or Blu-ray.
Yeah. I think that's it for the superhero stuff. There are a couple other little things. They announced the new The Tick show. Did you watch the original with Patrick Warburton?
I did not. I feel like I've seen clips of it.
Yeah, The Tick was great. Obviously, Patrick Warburton is great, but they're making a new one. It's an Amazon exclusive. Have you seen Parks and Rec? Have we talked about this?
No.
Fucking damn it. You won't know the actor then. I really like the guy playing the Tick. I was just watching the trailer. I'm not in love with it, but I'll have more opinions once it kind of comes out, because I definitely intend on watching it. They put out a new trailer for season 2 of Stranger Things, and after watching it, I am more hyped for that than I was for a new season of Game of Thrones, which is saying a lot. Just like,
yeah, I think it looks really cool.
Such a good trailer. Like, just beyond being excited for the show, the trailer is so awesome. So, like, 80s, and like, I don't even know how to explain it. Just the vibe of it was really, it was rad. Like, I used the word rad unironically to describe that trailer. And like, it being around Halloween, like, I think is really appropriate, and just fucking, I can't wait for that show. They put out a new trailer for the new Star Trek show, Star Trek Discovery. You are way more of a Trekkie than I am. Do you have any thoughts on this? On the new show?
And when you say more of a Trekkie than you are, it's still not by much. I mean, I've watched
but like,
The Next Generation.
You like The Next Generation. You like that show.
Yeah. But
I mean, that's more than me.
I feel like I like The Next Generation mainly because of Patrick Stewart.
Okay.
Because I fucking love Patrick Stewart.
Sure, who doesn't?
Yeah, Star Trek, it's never been... I've never had as big of an affinity for it as like Star Wars and even other more campy shows like Farscape and Stargate and stuff. So I don't know. I'm not crazy in love with this idea of there being a new season. I bet people are gonna go batshit about it and they'll enjoy it. But I mean, I might watch it later, but I don't know.
There's definitely been a lot of negative buzz around it, which like I certainly can't speak to as like. It's not like I dislike Star Trek, but I'm not like a big fan of it. But there's been a lot of hate around the new show, and I'm not sure like what the origination of it is. I know the Star Trek fan base can be very fickle, so I take a grain of salt with that. Also, there's the whole thing where the main character is a black woman on the show, and so you have to take it with a grain of salt because of that. There are going to be people that hate it because of that, which is stupid. But like, just watching the trailers for myself, as someone who's not hardcore into Star Trek, it doesn't look like offensively bad, but nothing is going on there that like makes me super intrigued. But we'll see once it comes out, like what hateful internet trolls have to say about the show.
Right, yeah. Well, and when it comes out, people they're still gonna fucking watch it, but they're just gonna be searching for things to complain about.
Yes.
So
they're gonna watch it just so they can
complain and let the people that want to live their lives the right way just enjoy shit.
Yeah, totally agree. 3 more quick things. So the co-creators of Game of Thrones, of the TV show, have announced their next show, which they won't be starting on until Game of Thrones wraps, which might not be until like 2019 at this point. But it's called Confederate, and it takes place in like an alternate timeline where the Confederates won the Civil War. And so, like, I'm not sure if I didn't catch if it's like modern times or something like close to modern times, but obviously in this alternate timeline where the Confederates win, so like slavery still exists, and like I know that's going to be a big point of the show. Just the fact that they're creating this thing immediately makes me interested in it. But just wanted to throw that out there. I hadn't heard about that until literally today that it had happened. Also, at San Diego Comic-Con, they showed off a bunch of stuff about Kingdom Hearts 3. I remain a little nervous about that game just because of all the spin-offs of that series and how off the rails the story has gone. But like they announced that there will be a Toy Story world, which is super cool. There will be a significant chunk of the game focused around the gummy ship. I'm not sure the details, like if it's going to be more like Kingdom Hearts 1 gummy ship or Kingdom Hearts 2 gummy ship, but that I could take or leave. I was never a huge fan of either of it in either game, so it's not like a big selling point for me. But like the trailers they've shown, the gameplay they've shown, the game looks beautiful. Like it has that Pixar quality to it that I think is great. And I'm really excited to see all of the new worlds in that game. Like if they can tap into more of the Pixar stuff, like I think a Frozen world could be really cool. I think like a Moana world could be really cool. There's a lot of Pixar stuff that they could tap into that I think would work really well. Or I guess Moana and Frozen were not Pixar, so forget that I said that. But regardless, I'm excited for the new Disney worlds.
Yeah. They could do Star Wars. They could fucking do Star Wars, man.
And I
a lightsaber Keyblade would be great.
But here's the thing, like, what Star Wars would it be? Because in Kingdom Hearts 2,
Like,
they had the
probably
Pirates
the
of the
Disney
Caribbean
Infinity
world.
Star Wars stuff, right?
Okay. Because in Kingdom Hearts 2, they had the Pirates of the Caribbean
was
stuff
awful.
where it was more
That was
realistic,
terrible.
and that
It was
looked
awful.
terrible. I hated it. And
Never
so I don't
again.
want them to do that. Like,
No,
I don't
but they
want
could do
them
the
to
Disney
that
Infinity
with,
stuff.
Yes, they could do this. Yes, if they do it with Star Wars and with the Marvel stuff, and they make it more cartoony and kiddie, whatever, that I'm okay with. I just don't want them to try to make it realistic the way they did Pirates of the Caribbean. Not a fan of that. And then finally, which I didn't even realize had happened, my wife is the one that told me about this. They're making a Psych movie.
Fucking yeah, they are, dude.
Did you watch the trailer for this?
Oh yeah,
It
is great.
It was real dumb and too long, but it only made me happier that it was that.
I know.
Like it was pretty lame. I'm not gonna lie, but like lovable lame. Because Kelly and I were talking about this, and like we both really liked Psych. And to be honest, I don't know that we ever finished it. I think we have like half of the final season that we never watched because I can't think of how it ended. But the show started really strong. I should say the writing was a little weak in the very beginning, like the first season or two, and then it got really strong in the middle seasons, and then the last couple of seasons we really lost interest and we were just forcing ourselves to watch it. Like on the whole, like I'm not sure that Psych is like a really, really strong, great show, but I still loved it. And so the fact that they're making a movie, which I have no idea what it is, like if it's going to be in theaters or if it's just going to be a TV movie on USA, I have no idea. But I'm super pumped for it. I love those two together, Dule Hill and James Verde.
They're
are
so
fantastic.
great.
I love them.
Man,
I love
they're
them.
fabulous.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
And just like, yeah, I mean, like you're right. If anyone has not seen the show and they were to watch that trailer for the movie, they'd be like, "Why the fuck would I watch
Yes.
this? Is stupid. The
Totally.
humor's bad." But like, for anyone who's watched the show, because you become
It's all
attached,
inside jokes.
Yeah, you become attached to those characters so quickly, and like just it was the perfect trailer for fans of Psych. And I mean, that's who that movie's for, right? You know, it's not
for sure.
no one who doesn't watch Psych is gonna need to go see that movie.
Yeah.
Like, but hopefully, you know, people see that there is a movie, and then maybe they
watch the show.
It sparks interest in watching the show again. Yeah. So
yeah, it's
that
all
would
on
be
Netflix.
Really cool.
Yeah. Super excited. So that kind of wraps up our San Diego Comic-Con talk. There may be more stuff that comes out in the next couple of days that we weren't able to cover, and we'll talk about that on next week's episode. But for now, or not, I shouldn't say next week, in the next episode, whenever the fuck that happens. For now, though, we're going to move on to everyone's favorite segment, Hate of the Week. Hate of the Week. Okay, so hinted at this earlier, but this week's Hate of the Week is just this sense that because of the website that I run, because of now the podcast that we're running, it's hard for me to have things that are just for me now, like when it comes to video games and movies and TV shows, because everything I play, everything I watch, I have this thing in my head of like, I need to be able to talk about this on an episode or in a review or an article or whatever I'm going to do with it. And so it makes it really hard for me to, like, at one level, just enjoy things for what they are, because I'm thinking very critically, which I already tend to do anyway. But the second piece is more just like have things that are just for me, that like I'm just going to watch this show and I'm not going to talk about it on the podcast. I'm not going to write about anything. I just want to watch it for me. And it's really hard to balance that because I need to be able to create content. Like I need things to talk about, and I need to be spending time watching new shows like I do with all the HBO shows so that I can talk about them here. And I'm not watching those shows just because I'm interested. I'm also watching them because I want to talk about them. I want to be relevant and have an opinion on things that people talk about. And it's just like, I don't know, it's just kind of a hard thing to balance. And I know, like, because you ran a gaming website for a while and you obviously had a YouTube channel for a while, is that something that you struggled with on the whole video game side?
Absolutely. I mean, we were trying to force ourselves to beat games and play through games so we could write reviews.
Yeah.
And that's not, if it's something you love, if it's something you love to do, trying to do that as your profession, or professionally, can really ruin it for you. You know, people always say do what you love, but I would say do what you love second. Like what is second on your list, right? Make that a career. Because for me, the thing I love the most is video games. So like it's, do what you love. Yeah, make video games a profession. But then you fucking learn to hate video games, right? Because putting work into anything, at least for me, and I feel like for a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people, work tends to poison the atmosphere, right? There are certain things that go along with doing something professionally that just suck the fun out of things. So that's why I chose to do what I love second most, which is theater. That's why I chose to do that professionally. Because, and trust me, there are times where I fucking hate that stage because like, the thought of going there for the 30th hour that week is killing me inside. But so I know if I were to do that with video games, like I was doing when I did the site, when I did YouTube, it really ruins it. So I think for you, my advice to you for the blog and podcasts and stuff is still just do what you like, right? Because this is not your one-stop shop for all the latest and greatest and in reviews and all that stuff. You do reviews for things like you're doing reviews for Seinfeld. Like that, how long has that show been dead? Right. But alive in our hearts. So just do the things that are interesting to you in the moment, and there will always be an audience for that kind of stuff. Because if you do it the other way around, you wind up like sites like Polygon and IGN, where it's forced and fake and awful. And sure, they have like dedicated communities, but those communities are fucking terrible people. It's just like 90% jackasses that are awful. And that's not the kind of community that you want to develop around your site and your brand. And so
for sure,
just focus on the things that are interesting to you in the moment. And I think you can still find success in that way. My method is to take what I love second most and do that professionally while still allowing myself to enjoy what I love the most, video games, where I think there's room for argument there, and that you can do what you love, but you have to be careful about how you do it, right? Because you can easily spoil it.
If you put a lot of effort into something, it doesn't matter how much you love it. It will at times feel like work, and it totally feels like that for me. Like I'm not making any money doing any of this. Like anything,
right.
Like I make no money from Shea Hates Everything. I make no money from this podcast. I'm purely doing it for fun and have a creative outlet. And like I certainly have hopes and dreams that it could turn into something in the future, but that's not why I'm doing it right now. And because I have several responses to what you're just saying. Like I feel like at a core level, I totally agree, and that's definitely in general the methodology I take. Like I'm not trying to always talk about the biggest things that are happening in the news when it comes to like movies and video games. I'm not trying to always talk about the most relevant things, but I feel like it's a fine line because I want to cultivate an audience, and not to get too much in the meta of this, but I want to cultivate an audience that is passionate about the things that I am passionate about and like curious about my thoughts and feelings, and like I want to encourage a dialogue about that regardless of if the thing came out last week or 6 years ago. Like that's the kind of fun that I enjoy. All the fun conversations I have about these things that I love with people like you or Kelly or other friends, it doesn't matter if the thing's new or not. I just like talking about this stuff, and that's why I wanted to do it this way. But, and it's a big but, a lot of people want that relevancy. They want to focus on the here and now because this culture of like instant gratification, like once something is old, it's old, and that means it's bad. Like people want to talk about the new hot things and distract themselves from the older things. And so it's hard to only do what I want to do. And I try to like find a bit of a balance because like something like Spider-Man Homecoming came out. I knew I wanted to see it that opening weekend, and so I really like worked hard to make sure I got that review out that first week that it was out, so that it was like relevant. A movie like Dunkirk, I know I want to see that movie. I might go see it in theaters, but it probably won't be the first 2 weeks that it comes out, and I'll want to do a review of it. But then by the time I put out that review, it won't be relevant anymore. Like if you're not reviewing something in the first week, no one generically cares. Like maybe specific people will care that are looking for your specific voice, but like some rando on the internet isn't going to look up my review of Final Fantasy XII: The Zodiac Age when I post it in 2 months. Like for me, it's more about practicing my writing, getting more content out there, and expressing that opinion, regardless of the relevancy, it's just kind of hard to build an audience around that. And like, I don't want to, like I said, I don't want to get in too much of like the meta, the woe is me, like my channel hasn't exploded kind of a thing, but it's something that weighs on my mind a lot, especially with video games, because like I was saying earlier, I have this huge backlog of games from the past couple of years. It's really hard for me to justify sinking 50 hours into GTA 5 when there are 10 games that are out this year that I feel like I need to play so I can talk about them because they came out this year. And it's even affecting me with movies too, because like I always do Game of the Year, where I try to do a top 10 list. Sometimes it's a top 5 list if I haven't played enough games. But like I want to start doing like my favorite movies every year. And I've been really bad about staying current with movies and watching them when they come out because I don't want to spend the money to go to the theater. But I really wanted to commit to myself to watch a lot more films this year, especially like around Oscar season, so I feel educated on that. So I looked at like my list of movies I've seen this year, and there aren't that many because I don't go see that many movies. So it's really hard for me to like, oh, here's this movie that came out 5 years ago. Let me just spend a Friday night watching that movie. Or should I rent fucking La La Land? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I get that. And I mean, I definitely think you need to pick and choose, right? Like you said with Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But I would just... Because there are other outlets for that current stuff, right? And I mean, like, it would be different. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I feel like you don't necessarily want to be that one-stop shop for all the current stuff, right? Like, your brand...
That's not my expertise.
Exactly, yeah. So, definitely you can pick and choose, right? And that's fine. I just want you to know, like, my advice is to be careful with turning your hobby into a profession, right? Or something. And I know it's not really a profession because you're not getting paid, but you put in the amount of work and time that a profession, right? That a profession.
Yeah, I totally treat it like a job. I mean, right. I spend 20 to 30 hours a week on this, and that's not including the time I spent playing the games, watching the movies, watching the shows that I talk about on this.
Right. So
I mean, it's a full-time job.
Yeah, just like cautionary tale, right? Like I really burned myself out by trying to do too much and forcing myself to do the things I wasn't motivated to at the time, right? Mm-hmm. And I definitely feel like that stuff sometimes came across as inorganic and forced. So that there's always that caveat with it, right? So
and it is tough too because I definitely am prone to laziness, and like that's a tough thing to admit, but like a lot of times I just don't feel like writing a new blog post. I just don't want to, even though I planned it and kind of scheduled time to do it. And it's hard because then it's like, well, do I not want to write it because I don't care about the thing I'm going to write about, or do I not want to write it because I'm feeling lazy and I'd rather just sit on the couch? It's that kind of struggle because like literally this morning before recording this, I put together a quickie reviews, like the series that, which, you know, ties directly into what we're talking about, where it's shorter, quicker reviews on things that aren't like super current. So like, hey, if I watch a movie that came out a couple of years ago, I'll put together 250 words review about that movie. And so I try to do those like 2 to 3 times a month. And so I wrote one this morning on some stuff that I've been watching recently. You know, I wrote about the Power Rangers movie and Togetherness and The Babadook, which is a horror movie that we watched together like over a month ago. Yeah. And so it's just like I wasn't super passionate about writing about those, but I wanted the kind of exercise. I wanted to force myself to create that and put that out there. And I also wanted to make sure I had a post going up this week. So it's like juggling all those different things at once can be tough.
Yeah, I agree. And you know, it's going to be different person to person, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, just, you know, as long as you're not getting burned out, I think you can keep doing what you're doing, right? It's just like being self-aware enough to know when you're getting burned out and when your content is suffering because of it.
Yeah, and I already plan. I mean, I took some time off of my actual job for this coming week. I took Thursday and Friday off. I was going to have like a little staycation because there's been a lot of like stressful things happening there and big projects coming down the pipeline. So I wanted to like get a breather. And I already told myself like I'm not writing on the blog those 4 days. We're not going to record a podcast this next weekend. We're taking that week off and trying to figure out if we do every other week or whatever. So I already have like planned this break that I'm going to have. So I'm trying to keep that in mind and make sure I don't get myself burnt out. And I still love putting those articles together and engaging with people and like having those discussions about agreeing and disagreeing. And granted, we're only 5 episodes into this, but like I still really enjoy doing this podcast with you. It's just more the actual content that I struggle with, not so much the like doing. It's the like the what, if that makes sense.
Sure. Okay.
But yeah, so there's a little peek behind the curtain of what goes into Shea Hates Everything, but I still
just
am
Shea
feeling really
furiously
good about
pulling
the site.
levers and cranking on buttons and like like don't look, oh god.
Pay no attention to the man behind the glass, even though he's crying and screaming and seems very angry. So yeah, so more less of a hate of the week and more of a like disappointed of the week. I don't know what emotion I'm feeling with that.
Disappointed of the week.
So that's going to do it for this episode of the Shea Hates Everything podcast. Thanks everybody for listening, and Kyle, thank you for joining me as always.
Thank you.
And like I said, we won't have an episode next week. We're going to try out an every other week structure. I think it'll just make it easier for us to have more content to put out for everybody and not worry so much about episodes like this one, closing in on 2 hours. If it's every other week, I won't be so self-conscious about that.
Right.
But let us know once we get into that what you kind of like. We've obviously been putting them out a lot more fast and furiously lately because we just launched. So once it settles down a little bit, make sure you're letting us know. Like if you miss it, every week, we'll figure that out and talk about it. And Kyle's probably shaking his head because he knows he's going to be too busy once school starts to do it every week. But we'll at least talk about it. So that's going to do it. I'm trying to think if I have anything specific to plug. I've plugged my stuff a lot less than recent, but whatever. Check out SheaHatesEverything.com for opinions and reviews and cool shit. There you go. That's it. So we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.